Today's question is LeetCode number 9, palindrome number. In this question, we're given an integer called x, and we gotta return true if x is a palindrome number. And we have the definition of a palindrome here. An integer is a palindrome when it reads the same forward and backward. For example, we have 121. If we read it from the left, it's gonna be 121. And if we read it from the right, it's gonna be 121. So from the left, 1, 2, 1, and from the right, 1, 2, 1. But as you can see, this number here is not a palindrome, because if you read it from the left, it's gonna be 123 or 123. But if we read it from the right, it's gonna be 321 or 321. So if we have a palindrome number, we're gonna return true, and if not, we're gonna return false. And if we have a negative number, since when we read it from the left to right, it's gonna be negative 121. But when we read it from right to left, it's gonna become this. As you can see, the negative sign is on the right, and that's incorrect. So it's not gonna be a palindrome, and we're gonna return false. Alrighty, let's solve this problem together. I will not finish this video until I make sure you fully understand how to solve this problem. So as you know, this number here, 101 or 101, it's gonna be a palindrome number because it reads the same way when we read it from the left to right and when we read it from the right to left. But this number here is not a palindrome, as you can see, because when we read it from the left to right, it's gonna be 327, and when we read it from the right to left, it's gonna be 723. So it's a totally different number. And if we have a negative number, as you can see, if we actually reverse this number here, because this is actually what we're doing, if we reverse it, it's gonna become this number, and it's not equal to the same number here. And as you heard, I used the word reverse because this is actually what we're doing. We're kind of reversing the number, and we're checking if it's gonna be equal to our initial number or not. And this is the base of our algorithm. Now I'm going to tell you about our algorithm, and then I'll visualize the whole process so I make sure you fully understand how to solve this problem. Alright, so in the beginning, we're going to need a result variable, and we're going to initialize it to an empty string. And then the only thing that we need is a reverse loop, and a reverse loop is just a fancy name for a loop that actually starts from the end to the beginning. Meaning when we are actually looping through this, we're gonna start from the end, and then we're gonna come all the way to the beginning. And in our loop, we're gonna have only one thing, and that's adding the current number to our result. So each time when we actually loop through our numbers, we're gonna add the current number to our result variable. And this is how we actually reverse our number, because we're gonna start from the very end, and we're adding these one by one to our result variable. So we're basically reversing the number that we have. And then at the end, we're gonna check if our result variable is equal to our original number. If it was, that means it was a palindrome number, so we're gonna return true. And if not, we're gonna return false. Believe it or not, this is all of our algorithm. So now let's visualize it together. As you can see, we're in the first round of our loop, and because we're actually in a reverse loop, the first number that we're gonna be pointing to in our loop is gonna be this one here. So the one at the end. And the only thing that we're gonna do is adding the current number, which is this one here, to our result variable. So let's do that. As you can see, now we're gonna enter round 2, and then we're gonna be pointing to this 0 here. We're gonna add the 0 here, then same thing. As you can see, we're gonna be entering the third round, and then we're gonna be adding this one. And then at the end, the fourth round, and we're gonna be adding this minus sign to our result. And then we're gonna break out of our loop. So as you can see, this is our result variable, and this is our original number. We're gonna check if these two are actually equal to each other. And as you can see, they're not. And that's because of this minus here. The minus on this side is on the left, but the minus on this side is on the right. And because they're not equal to each other, we're gonna return false. Now let's code this in the simplest way possible. Alright, so first of all, let's define our result variable, and that was equal to an empty string. And then we're gonna need to loop through our number. And because our number is actually an integer, and we can't actually loop through the integer, we're gonna define a variable and call it string number, and that's gonna be equal to string x. And the only thing that this is doing is it's converting our number into a string. So for example, if our number is actually 121, it's gonna convert it into 121, but in string form. This way we can actually loop through each number. Alrighty, now let's write our for loop. So let I be equal to string number the length minus 1, because we're starting from the last integer, and we're gonna loop until we reach the very end. So we're saying start from the last digit and keep on looping as long as I is greater or equal to 0, and I minus minus, because we're gonna decrement I on each loop. So this is our reverse loop. We're gonna start from the last index of our number, and then we're gonna decrement I until the very beginning. And inside of our loop, we're gonna have only one line, and it's gonna say result is equal to result plus string number of I. And this is gonna add our digit on each loop to our result variable, and that's it. Then we're gonna say return result equaling our string number. So if these two are equal, that means we have a palindrome because the reverse version of our number is equal to the original form. And that's it. This is all of our code. Now let's actually test it. It would be really funny if it didn't work. Let's see. As you can see, all of the tests are passed. Now let's submit it. Moment of truth. Drum roll, please. As you can see, we actually got accepted, and now let's analyze the time complexity. As you can see, O of n because we only have one loop. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and keep on coding.